A frozen cave in northern Spain holds something that looks almost ordinary at first. Stone tools, ash from old fires, and scratches on rock that barely survived time. But the deeper archaeologists went, the stranger it got. This was not a one-time shelter. It was reused again and again through winters so brutal that modern humans with central heating would still complain. Outside, the world was not just cold, it was hostile. Ice spread across landscapes like it owned the place. Animals vanished for months. The sun felt like it was on a part-time schedule. Yet somehow, humans stayed, not for a season, not for a generation, but for thousands of years. Which raises a question nobody expected to take seriously. How did ancient humans survive winter without mentally losing it? Even today, people feel noticeably off after a few weeks of cloudy weather. A couple of rainy days and suddenly everything feels like a loading screen. No heating, no screens, no distractions, just wind, fire, and the same group of people you have already heard every story from 17 times. And yet, they did not collapse. They did not go extinct. They did not break mentally the way we assume they should have. So what were they doing differently? The world they were living in. To answer that, we have to go back more than 20,000 years, when Ice Age Europe looked less like a postcard and more like a survival game stuck on the hardest difficulty setting. Glaciers stretched across entire continents. Forests that exist today simply did not. Animals migrated like they were avoiding something rather than following instinct, vanishing for months at a time to places warmer and more forgiving. And the humans who stayed behind were left with one constant reality. Winter was not a season. It was a test, a very personal one. Because in that environment, everything suddenly mattered at a level that modern life has almost entirely removed. Miss one hunt and there was no food, lose access to firewood, and you were exposed to temperatures that could kill within hours, shelter that was even slightly inadequate, and nature had simply deleted your progress with no recovery option. You would expect that kind of sustained life or death pressure to break people psychologically. Chronic stress does measurable damage to the human brain even under much gentler conditions in the modern world. Yet here is the twist that archaeologists keep running into. Ice Age communities were not collapsing every winter. They were organized, structured, and continuously creative. Tools kept improving across generations. Art kept appearing in increasingly sophisticated forms. Trade networks spanning hundreds of kilometers kept moving goods and materials between groups. Which raises a strange question. If life was genuinely that brutal, why was anyone still doing non-essential things like art? That is where the mystery deepens. At first, researchers blamed biology. Maybe ancient humans were simply built differently, with some cold climate genetic resilience that modern people have diluted or lost. But that theory fell apart fairly quickly because modern groups living in extreme northern climates, the Inuit, the Sami, and indigenous communities across Siberia and Alaska still experience very similar mental effects from prolonged winter darkness. Same brain, same neurochemistry, same struggles, different outcomes. So the answer was not locked inside biology, it was in behavior, and specifically in a set of behaviors that modern life has quietly dismantled one by one. What was really happening in the caves? For decades, cave paintings were treated like ancient decoration, animals on walls, handprints, geometric symbols, nice to look at, culturally interesting, and then case closed. But then someone asked a more uncomfortable question. Why were people risking their lives deep inside dark, narrow cave systems, sometimes hundreds of meters underground, often requiring crawling through passages barely wide enough for a human body, just to paint something nobody would casually encounter? That behavior has no easy explanation if the paintings were simply decoration. You do not risk your life for a poster nobody sees, unless the paintings were not the point. Some of these caves had something interesting about their architecture beyond the images on the walls. Deep chambers with acoustic properties that amplified and distorted sound in ways that would have been striking and even unsettling to anyone who experienced them in darkness with only fire for light. Spaces where voices echoed and returned as though the cave itself were answering. Researchers have identified multiple cave systems where the density of paintings corresponds almost exactly with the locations of the strongest acoustic effects. Suddenly, these were not art galleries. They looked more like gathering spaces, ceremonial locations, places where people came together to do something that mattered enough to justify the physical risk of reaching them. In those spaces, people did not just draw. They talked, they sang, they performed. They shared stories and passed down survival knowledge in forms that could be revisited and reinforced across seasons and generations. And that matters enormously, because winter did not just threaten the body, it attacked the mind in a way that required an equally deliberate and collective response. Isolation is one of the most powerful stress triggers the human nervous system can experience. We are social creatures at a neurological level, and extended solitude triggers measurable hormonal and cognitive changes that degrade both mental and physical health over time. Take away connection, and everything starts to malfunction. So during winter, staying together was not optional and not simply a matter of comfort. It was a survival behavior as important as keeping the fire burning. But that creates the next challenge. How do you keep a small group of people mentally functional when they are confined together for months at a time with limited resources and nowhere else to go? Stories as survival technology. The answer may be the oldest technology humanity ever created. Stories. Every culture has them. But Ice Age stories were not entertainment. They were survival systems disguised as narrative. They taught where animals migrated. They warned about danger zones. They reinforced group identity. And most importantly, they gave people something to expect from tomorrow. Because when you know what is coming, fear gets quieter. Not gone, just quieter. But winter life was not all sitting around a fire telling stories. Archaeological evidence shows something surprising. Winter camps were busy, almost weirdly busy. People repaired tools, made clothing, carved bone ornaments, built weapons, and crafted musical instruments. Ice Age humans were surviving extreme climate conditions and still finding time for what we would now call hobbies. The activity was not random. It created something psychologically essential, structure, because when everything outside is unpredictable, routine becomes a form of mental armor. Every task carried meaning. Repairing a spear was not a chore. It was future survival. Preparing food was not boring. It was insurance. Uncertainty is what usually breaks people down over time, and structure is what holds that uncertainty at bay. But even with purpose and routine, winter should still have been psychologically overwhelming, which means something else had to be stabilizing the system. What fire actually did, that something was fire. Not fire as a tool, but fire as a social center. Every Ice Age campsite shows the same pattern. Fire in the middle, people around it. Always. Not randomly scattered like a modern living room where everyone stares at a separate screen, but gathered, facing each other, sharing the same light and warmth. Fire gave warmth, but more importantly, it gave gathering. Gathering created communication. Communication created cooperation, and cooperation kept people alive. Modern experiments add something fascinating to this picture. Humans sitting near fire become measurably calmer, more reflective, more socially aware, and less aggressive, which suggests something unusual. We did not just use fire as a resource, we adapted to it. Our brains may still be running on the expectation that fire equals safety, equals social connection. The campfire was not background ambiance. It was the structural center of everything that kept a group mentally functional through the dark months. The real answer: winter did not just challenge ancient humans, it shaped them. It forced cooperation, communication, and shared survival into the foundation of how human groups operate. That is not just history, it is the reason humans came out of the Ice Age as the most socially connected species on Earth, still running the same ancient system today with better lighting, better tools, and the same fundamental need for the people around the fire. The next time you complain about a cold winter morning, remember that your ancestors faced freezing temperatures without heaters, electricity, or modern clothing, and somehow survived. Their resilience became part of the human story we all carry today. If you enjoyed this documentary, hit the like button, subscribe for more deep dives into ancient human life and evolution, and tell us in the comments, could you survive one winter the way our ancestors did? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next documentary.